7 is called absolute value, and an absolute value of a number is the distance from 0 on the number line. So it's distance on the number line. So the absolute value of, so it says the absolute value of x equals 5, right? So we know from before x could be what or what? 5 or negative 5. Very good. So you know that it could be x is equal to 5, or it could be x is equal to a negative 5. So on your number line, just so you can, this will help you, that means that at 5 we have a dot, and at negative 5 we have a dot. Alright, so remember the reason why it's or is because these aren't in common, so that is or. Good. Bless you.
I'm allergic to somebody in this classroom.
So we have here x is less than or equal to 5. So I want you and your shoulder partner to think about, on our number line, what numbers would make this true? What numbers can we put in for x to make this true? So tell each other so I can hear you guys talk about it.
Below 5. Yeah. Between below 5 and 5.
Alright, so I did hear you guys, you were saying anything between these two numbers. Yes. Yes, you did. Tim said that. So, from yesterday, when our graph looked like this, was this and or? It was and, is right. So that means that we have x is less than or equal to 5, right? And x is greater than or equal to a negative 5. So we are saying that it is either x is less than 5 and x is greater than or equal to a negative 5. Now, I want you and your partner to decide about this one. Where or what would make this true? What could we put in here? What numbers? Alright, so Tony, what did you say? It's going to be anything greater than 5. So anything greater than 5 or anything less than a negative 5. So we have x is going to be greater than or equal to 5, and the other one is x is less than or equal to a negative 5.
Oh my God.
So is this and or is this or? Or. First of all, questions about just that, because if you understand this part, the rest hopefully will be easier. So questions about this part right here. Alright, so because of this, there are 3 principles for solving absolute value sentences. So here we go. The first one, and this is what you guys have to write. The first one says that the absolute value of x equals a. Then we have x equals a, or x equals negative a. Right? So if we have the absolute value of x equals a, that means that x was a or it was negative a. Looking up here, what do you notice about the signs? This has the same sign, and then what happened to the sign? It flipped, and then you had negative. So it's almost like you're multiplying by a negative 1, and that's exactly what you're kind of doing. So the next one, number 2, says that the absolute value of x is less than a. Then we have x is going to be less than a. And what do you think is going to be next?
X is greater than
Or
A.
negative.
So we have x, I did hear x is greater than negative a, but now is this and or?
Or and.
It is and. Alright, the Katie. Let's going back up to here. What numbers would make,
Oh, okay. They're right.
you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is just general saying that any a we have, it's always going to be like this. So if it's less than that number, it means that it's going to be all of the numbers from 0 to that number. Does that make sense? All right, so with your shoulder partner, you don't have to write down 3, but I want you to tell me or tell your shoulder partner if you have the absolute value of x is greater than a, what do you think we're going to, what the principal says? And then we're going to write it down, but what do you think the principal will say? So remember, it's going to be, first of it's the same sign, right? So we're saying x is greater than a. You flip the sign, and it's negative. So you flip that sign, and it's negative. Now, the only part you guys have to really make sure you guys understand is it and or? If it's greater than, if it's out the outskirts, remember, that means it's or. Questions? All right. So we have here, what I want you to do is tell me what this equals. So what you do, once it absolute values by itself, you can say, you can take it out. So we have 5x minus 4 equals, what does 5x minus 4 equal? 11
Or negative.
or negative 11. So it equals 11 or 5x minus 4 equals negative 11.
Did you finish figure out number 16?
Mm-hmm. We're going to do that in just a little bit. All right, class, now there are two separate problems, so what do we do first?
Subtract 4.
You add 4 to both sides. So you get 5x is equal to 15. Then divide by 5. X equals 3 on that one. So then we have here, we add 4 again on both sides. We get 5x. Negative 11 plus 4 gives me a negative 7. Divide by 5. So x is equal to a negative 7/5. We have to bring down that or because it's really important to make sure you bring down that or, because when you graph it, it will be it'll be different. So because it's or, it means that you're graphing both things. So you just, and because it's equal to, that means we have 2 points. So the first point is at negative 7/5, and the other point is at 3.
Or you just graph it, you don't do the line, right?
If it's only equal to, you just
Only
put a
equal to.
point. Yep. If it's just equal to, you just have a point. Yep. All right. Back side of that.
Wait, can you
Good? Okay. All right, back side of that. We have the first thing you always do is you write the problem. So we have 3x minus 2 is less than 4. Then we have 3x minus 2. What do we have to do? What do we have to do with the sign? Flip the sign and make this negative. Now, what do we have here? Is it and or? It is and. If you still are struggling with and or, and you don't, remember you have to kind of understand it because you won't have that sheet on your test. Look up here for one quick second. Pretend that this is x, and it says that it's less than 4. So if these are my 4s and negative 4, that means less than would be in between it. Anytime that it's shaded and there's an end, that's your and. So that's when you would use your and. All right, so we have our two situations. Now we just solved each one. So, Tim, do you know what I have to do to solve the 3x minus 2 is less than 4? Do you know what you have to do? So I add 2, very good. So I add 2 to both sides. So I have 3x is less than my 6. And Tony, what do I do next? Divide by 3. So I have x is less than 2. Hannah, what do I do on my right side? Add 2 here. And add 2. So I have 3x is greater than a negative 4. And no, you're right. No, you're right. Should find my little eraser. Negative 2. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. And then Austin, I have to divide by my 3. So we have x is greater than a negative 2/3. So this and you have to bring down. You have to bring that and down. So now to graph it, we have negative 2/3 over here. And it's actually open circle. And then we have here a 2, open circle. And since it's and, what does that mean? It's between them. When you get to problems like C, what you have to do is pretend that this is x. You always have to get the absolute value by itself first. So we're going to pretend that that is x. So what is my first step of getting my absolute value by itself? Add 7 is right. So we're going to add 7. So I have 3 absolute value for x plus 2 absolute value is greater than or equal to 18. Again, thinking of this as x, what would we have to do next? Divide by 3. So those cancel out. So I have 4x plus 2, the absolute value, is greater than or equal to a 6. Alright, so what does that tell me? I want you guys to think about it and see if you can get me this sentence right here. So there's 2 of them, and tell me if it's an and or an or. So you and your shoulder partner can try to write it down, see what you guys think it is. It's always the same thing. So it's 4x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 6. If you're thinking about this as an x and you're at 0 and 6, remember it's this way. So if you're thinking about it this way, that means it's your or. That's what it's going to end up looking like, something to that effect. So it's or 4x plus 2. What do we do to the sign? You flip it, and then you make that negative, so negative 6. Yep, we're going to. So, solving this side, what's the first thing I have to do is subtract 2. So I have 4x is greater than or equal to your 4. Divide by 4, so I have x is greater than or equal to 1. I just want to make sure you guys are with me. Over on this side, what do I have to do first? Subtract 2. So I have 4x is less than or equal to a negative 8. Then what? Divide by 4. So x is less than or equal to a negative 2. Since we are graphing, we have our negative 2 is here, our 1 is there. We have closed circles. And it's or, so it's going outward. Nope, because you got 2 more rules, 2 more things. We don't have any more of those kind. The next ones will go faster. Another use of absolute value is to find the distance between 2 points on your number line. So if you subtract the 2 points, no matter what order you do, and you take the absolute value of them, you will get the distance between those 2 points. So it says to find the distance between negative 92 and negative 8. So I'm going to show you both ways to show you it doesn't matter. So I have negative 92 minus a negative 8, absolute value. So in your calculators, you'd go negative 92 plus 8, which gives me a negative 84, absolute value. Absolute value of 84 is 84. Just to show you, if I would have reversed it, a negative 8 minus a negative 92, negative 8 minus a negative, that's plus 92, gives you 84. Absolute value of that is 84. So, questions on that? Last little bit is our last page. 1 second. So all this is saying is you take the 2 numbers and you subtract them, and then you take the absolute value of them. And then they both equal 84. Yes?
If the number and the absolute value is already positive, you have to do an extra step.
Well, you would never leave it in the absolute value. Like if you can go from here to here, that's fine, but you could never leave the answer as absolute value of 84. You have to have 84, because this would be simplified. Yep. All right, and the last one. Simplify, leaving as little as possible inside the absolute value sign. So what you have to do is you have to break them up. So it has the absolute value of 5x, so you say the absolute value of 5 times the absolute value of x. So what is the absolute value of 5? 5. And the absolute value of x, since it's already single, we have to leave it there because we don't know if it's positive or negative. So that is where we'd leave it. If you already have, like on B, it says x squared. If I put in negative 2 or any negative, would it always be positive? Yes. So if your exponent is even, you can take it out. So the absolute value of x squared is plain old x squared. When you have an odd, like C, what you do is you break it up into evens and odds. So, what can we break up this so we can have some evens and odds? So we'd have 2 even, so we'd have the absolute value of y squared and times the absolute value of y. Now, eventually you guys might not need to do this, but I'm going to show you each step. So the absolute value of y squared is y squared, absolute value of y. I want you guys to try D, and that's the last one, so you try D. All right, how many x's can we take out? 6. So it's going to be x to the 6th absolute value of x. All right. A review. I want you guys to shout the answers out. If I had x, a variable times a variable, what do we do to the exponents? Add them. So that would have been x to the 3rd. What happens if I had, if this is review, just so you know, what happens if I had x to the 5th over x squared? What do we do to here? Subtract them. So we have x to the 3rd again, don't we? Yep.
How come like on the y squared
Sorry.
you put like the lines on top of it, but like
Because I went from here to here on that one.
oh
Sorry, do you want me to put it?
no I was
Yeah, but I just skipped a step. I probably shouldn't have, but
it's
that's,
fine.
nope, that's fine. This is the final answer. I just jumped to it since you guys tried it. But this is just your work, and that's your final answer. Yep. All right, and the last one, if you had x cubed squared, what do you do to those? You multiply them.
X is 6.
Very good.